All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. I have a few prepared remarks, but it's really going to be Don's show tonight. So my name is Mike Harnwell. I'm the Select Board Chair. I want to start by saying last year's event was a genuine highlight of our town. When we had a packed room last year right here in Hollis, and before Election Day, the recording for last year's event was viewed over 800 times between the day that we had it and Election Day, and that was 2 weeks. This time around, we actually have a whole month before the actual Election Day. It really told us something important, that people want to be informed. They want to hear directly from people asking for their vote, and we want to give them that opportunity. They show up in person, and then we also have folks online today. So it's exciting that this year, the timing, again, last week we had 2 weeks before the election. This year, we have a whole month. This event is also proudly sponsored by the Hollis Grange, and I want to tell you a little bit about the lineup. The first part of this meeting, or this event, is actually going to feature the local state level candidates from House Districts 137 and 138, as well as Senate District 32. For many of us, this is a rare opportunity to hear from those candidates in an intimate community setting. So let's get started, and thank you for being here tonight. This is your night, this is your community. Don Marine, everybody.
So thank you, Michael. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I hope you can pick up what you're looking for here and maybe add some things that you didn't know. So the format tonight is going to be each one of these candidates is going to have 5 minutes to speak. I'll give them a 1 minute warning when it's at the 4 minute mark. They'll wrap up. And then once we finished with these 5 candidates, we'll be going on to the road commissioner, and he will have the same format, 5 minutes to speak, both of them, if they're here. Rob is not showing up, so I have a statement to read from him. We're going to go then to the school board. We have 2 school board members who have requested to speak. One of them, I guess, is going to be virtual, and I don't see the other one here yet, but I'm hoping that she'll show up. And then we're going to go to the 4 select board candidates who will come to the front, and we will take written questions from you, and I will read the questions, and they will make the reply. In order to start this event tonight with these 5 candidates, so that we're not prioritizing one over the other, we're going to draw lots to see who's going to start first, and then we'll go by the number that they draw.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Number 5. Wow.
Number 4.
3.
If you have number 3.
You do have number 3. 2. All right.
There we go.
There you go.
Almost like it was a stacked deck. So we're going to start with candidate number 1, and this is Oliver McAvoy. He's running for House District 138, which has a small piece of Hollis, a small piece of Buxton, all of Leamington, and all of Cornish. So, Mr. McAvoy, your 5 minutes begins now, and you can come up here or you can sit there, whatever one you would like to do.
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay?
All right. So thank you. My name is Oliver McAvoy. I'm running as the Democratic candidate for House District 138. Let me turn this up a little bit. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to run as a candidate. It's a great honor that I feel very privileged to have been asked and approached. A little bit about myself. I'm from a little town in northern Maine called Patton, which is just the southern tip of Aroostook County. And if you've never been up, I highly recommend it. It's the northern entrance to Baxter State Park, which to me is objectively the better entrance, but highly recommend it. I've been in the district for about 20 years with my wife, Megan, and we have 2 girls that went through the Bonnie Eagle school system. They are both in college now, so I have a little bit of free time. And I decided to, throw my hat in the ring. And people ask, well, why would you get involved with politics, with everything? I have to say that it kind of is because of my upbringing. Being from a little tiny town, I can say that I had a very Norman Rockwell upbringing. It was idyllic, it seemed great, I'm the son of a logger and a school secretary, so not fancy jobs. I wasn't born into wealth. I've been working class all my life, and I continue to be to this day. I grew up, I helped my father in the woods cutting wood. So I know what it's like to work when it's 30 below and you're lugging a chainsaw around the northern Maine woods, and when it's 100 degrees and absolutely sweltering. Over the years, I've pivoted in my career, and I've been in IT for the last 25 years, roughly. I've worked with many of the big companies here in southern Maine, WEX, IDEX, Covetrus. So I feel like I have a good experience on both sides of whether your collar is blue or white. I feel like I can communicate and talk to everybody across that spectrum. And why am I running? Because I just feel like this country is not moving in the right direction. It's not working for us. For the working class people, things have gotten objectively worse over decade after decade. And I feel like if there's any way I can help and add my voice to fighting for working class people, for labor, then that's what I want to do. Some of my platforms. So what do I believe in? Again, I will always side with the working class. I will always side with labor. I feel like wealth inequality in this country has gotten to a point that is worse than it's ever been since the Gilded Age. So with that, in addition to that, healthcare. You know, that's the other thing, that it doesn't matter if you have an R next to your name or a D, you are going to need healthcare at some point. We all know someone who's been sick, who fortunately, you know, has not been able to get the quality healthcare that they need in the time that they need it. That's not getting any better. So between those two, those are probably my two biggest platforms or planks in my platform that I stand for. But I would love to stay after and chat with anybody. Instead of me telling you what I believe in, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. What is working for you and what isn't? And how can I can help, you know, have a voice at the State House and make a change for us. I'm not worried about the people up top. I'm worried about working class people. So thank you. My name is Oliver McAvoy. I'm running for House District 138.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So next up will be House candidate, the Honorable John Kenny. And your time starts now, John.
Good afternoon. I graduated from high school in Milo, Maine. I wanted a job. I wanted to live there. There was no work, so I went down. I found the U.S. Coast Guard recruiter, and I spent 24 years in the United States Coast Guard. I retired out of Jonesport, Maine, as a senior chief bosun's mate in 1999. In 1991, while serving in South Portland, Maine, I built a house in Leamington, Maine. In 2003, I first ran and I served 3 terms on the Leamington Planning Board. In 2012, I was elected to the House of Representatives. I served 3 terms. I served as Republican lead on the Veterans and Legal Affairs Committee, and I served as the Republican lead on the Environment and National Resources Committee. My first term, I represented Leamington, Baldwin, Cornish, Denmark, and Sebago. In the 127th and the 128th, I represented Buxton, Leamington, Standish, and Buxton, Leamington, Limerick, and Standish. In 2018, Mark Blyer wanted to run, and I gladly stepped aside and said, go for it and have a good time. He just finished up serving 4 terms, and he's termed out. He's going to have to step down. In 2019, I served as 4 years of the chair of the York County Republican Committee. In 2020, I was elected to serve on the Leamington Board of Selectmen, and I served 1 term. In 2023, my wife and I wanted to downsize our home. We had a very large home in Leamington. We sold it, and we bought a little 2-bedroom house over in Buxton. From 1999 to 2025, I owned 3 different small businesses. Presently completely retired, I'm an avid snow skier. My hobbies are hunting, fishing, and camping. Last year, my wife and I took our first month-long camping trip and went down into the Southwest. I have a family cottage on Boyd Lake up in Piscataquis, Maine. I'm stepping up to run again as in hopes to help stop the one-party rule that is going on up there in Augusta, Maine. For 8 years, the whole government has been in Democrat control. My goals are to curb spending and reduce and delete some of the taxes. I hope that some of the bipartisan legislation that I was involved in while I served up there for the first 3 terms can happen again. The Coast Guard gave me the opportunity to live all over the United States. My wife and I have 2 daughters. One is presently in Massachusetts, one is presently in New Hampshire. They have told me they are never coming back to Maine. I live in Maine because I like it here. The freedom that most landowners will give us the opportunity to hunt on their land. The wealth of the streams, the ponds, and the lakes. I strive to fish in Sebago at least 1 day a week during the summer weather. I know of a little patch of fiddleheads over there in Leamington that is always up by 15 April, and I hope that I can continue to pick that patch of fiddleheads for many years to come. In Leamington, I had a beautiful patch of asparagus. I have started another patch of asparagus over here in Buxton, and my goal is to grow that patch so that it's large enough so that I can hand out more asparagus to some of my friends as I have in the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Next up will be the Honorable Nathan Carlo, who is representing House District 137, which is the larger part of Buxton and the larger part of Hollis. Nathan.
Thank you for having me here today. Dawn, thanks so much for moderating this event. Doing great. I'm Nathan Carlo, your state rep in Augusta, Maine. Standing here today is especially meaningful to me because just a few weeks ago I had the great privilege of speaking in this building when we dedicated this beautiful facility to Rita Anderson. That project became a reality because local people worked together and because we were able to secure the funding necessary to get the job done. To me, that is what public service is all about. Communities identifying a need, leaders working together, and government actually delivering results for people. For the last 6 years, I've had the honor of serving Buxton and Hollis in Augusta. I've served on the Bonnie Eagle School Board and as its chairman. These experiences have taught me something really important. Slogans are easy, but governing is hard. And right now, as I travel across the district, the biggest issue facing working families is affordability. Too many Mainers feel like they are falling behind. Groceries cost more, heating oil costs more, electricity costs more, property taxes are continuing to rise, and young families wonder whether they will ever be able to afford a home in the community they grew up in. And seniors on fixed incomes are being squeezed in every direction. People are tired of politicians pretending everything is fine. They need leaders willing to confront the problem and fight for real solutions. It's easy to criticize rising costs from the sidelines. It's harder to stand up in Augusta and challenge bad policy and actually deliver results. Over the last 8 years, it's true, one party has had total control of state government. Yet, despite record spending, Maine remains one of the least affordable places in the country. I don't say that to point fingers or sound partisan. My record shows I'm one of the most bipartisan members of the legislature, but I do believe strongly in accountability. And when policies aren't working, we should ask why. That includes energy policy. I've consistently spoken out against the way Maine's green energy policies have been rolled out. These policies have been implemented in a way that has placed enormous costs on working people, and families in Buxton and Hollis should not continue subsidizing policies that drive up their electric bills and make life less affordable overall. We need an energy strategy based in reality, one that balances our worthy environmental goals with affordability, reliability, and most of all, common sense. I've also taken on CMP when I believed ratepayers were being ignored, and I was one of the first legislators to speak out against their last rate hike. At the same time, we cannot talk about Maine's future without talking about education. I care so much about education. As a school board member, a Bonnie Eagle graduate, I understand both the opportunities and the challenges that our schools face. Our students deserve strong academic outcomes, safe schools, and pathways to success, whether that means the trades, the military, or going directly into the workforce. We owe it to parents, taxpayers, and students to focus less on bureaucracy and more on results. Reading proficiency matters. Math and science proficiency matter. Career and technical education matter. Preparing students for the real world matters. And improving education is directly tied to affordability. If we want young people to stay in Maine, raise their families here, and begin their careers here, we must ensure they graduate prepared to compete and succeed. Throughout my time in Augusta, I've tried to approach this job with a bipartisan work ethic. I've worked with Republicans and Democrats and independents because I believe the people who sent me to Augusta care far more about results than they do about political theater. That approach is why I've been able to deliver for our community. It's why projects like this town hall have moved forward. It's why local concerns have had a voice in Augusta, and it's why experience matters. As I run for my fourth and final term in the Maine legislature, I'm asking you once again to give me the opportunity to fight for practical solutions, fiscal accountability, affordable energy, strong schools, and a government that always remembers who it works for. Thank you so much. God bless you, and I'm happy to answer any questions later in the forum.
Perfect timing, perfect timing. So our next candidate is also House 137 of the Buxton and Hollis is Charlie Tilbrook. Your time starts now.
Thanks, Don. So I think it's funny. I don't let anyone call me Charlie except for Don. So I'm Charles Tilbrook, and I'm really happy to be here tonight with so many people who care about this community here in Hollis. Events like this, where folks really show up and listen and ask questions, is what a healthy local democracy looks like. So I want to start with a thank you for all of you. You could be anywhere else tonight, and it's a beautiful night. So thank you for being in this room right now because you care about Hollis and you want to hear about the candidates. I want to start with, I'm not a politician. So let me tell you why I'm standing up here in front of all of you. So a couple months back, I was sitting at the dining room table doing what a lot of us do. I was complaining. I was grousing that it didn't seem like Democrats were talking to Republicans and Republicans weren't talking to Democrats. And I felt that something needed to be done. And my 17-year-old daughter looked at me with the way that 17-year-old daughters can look at their dads and say, I'm going to read this exactly as it said. Dad, you need to stop talking and you need to start doing. What are you going to do to make the world better for me and for Logan? Logan is their elder sibling. And that really hit me like a brick. She wasn't asking about politics. She wasn't asking about responsibility. She was asking, what am I going to do for her future? What am I going to do? What could they count on as we moved forward? And so that one question pushed me off the sidelines. I realized I couldn't just talk about wanting things to be better. I had to step up and try to make them better. So a little bit about me. I am an Air Force brat. I've lived all over the world, from Florida to Texas to Georgia to the Philippines to Iraq to Indonesia. But 19 years ago, I landed in Buxton, Maine. And no matter what happens, you guys aren't getting rid of me. I am never leaving. I love Buxton. But I'm a problem solver by training and by temperament. I started out as an engineer, building and designing things. I became a high school teacher, helping students build confidence in math and science. And now I'm a scientist, oceanographer, and professor. I work with students and try to expand what we know about the world. Throughout all of that, I've learned something very important, and that is when people work together, we can solve difficult problems. I've lived in Buxton for 19 years. My wife, Christine, has built a small dog training business here. We've raised our kids here. I've stood on the sidelines of swim meets, track meets, soccer games, lacrosse games, gymnastics competitions. I've cheered with many of you. I've worried about the weather with many of you and celebrated with you. So I know this community very well because I'm a part of it. But I want to be upfront. I have never run for office before. I'm not here to climb some political ladder. I'm not trying to push forward some rigid ideology. I'm here because I care about this place, the people in it, and I want to make it better. I'll work with anyone, Democrat, Republican, Independent, if they're serious about helping Maine families. So here are the issues that I care about. Strong public schools. As an educator, I've seen firsthand how much it matters when we invest in students and support teachers. Every kid deserves a fair shot, and every community deserves educated citizens. Affordable health care. No family should have to choose between paying their bills and getting the care they need. Affordable housing. People should be able to live in the communities they grew up in, work in, and love. Young families should be able to put down roots, and seniors should be able to stay in their homes. To be honest, I don't know if I could buy my house that I bought in 2007 if I tried to buy it now because of how. Economic opportunity. Local businesses are the backbones of our towns. I see that every day through my wife's work. We need to make it possible for young people to build their lives here, for small businesses to thrive. All of this goes back to that moment at my dining room table with my daughter. Bryn asked me what I was doing to make the world better for her and for Logan. That question is why I'm here. I'm an engineer, I'm an educator, I'm a scientist, I solve problems, I fix things, and I care deeply about Hollis and Buxton, and I want to do the same here. Thank you again for being here tonight. Thank you for listening, and thank you for caring about the future of our towns. As I continue this campaign, I want you to know that I'm always happy to meet with anyone who wants to talk, ask questions, and share what matters most to them. You'll see me out in the campaign trail. I'll be at the community events. I'll be knocking on doors. I'll be listening. I don't believe votes are owed based on your party. I think they're earned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tilburg. You were right on the money. So our last state candidate will be the Honorable Henry Ingerson. He currently is the senator of Senate District 32, which is Hollis, Arundel, Biddeford, Dayton, and Lyman. So, Mr. Ingerson, your time starts now. Thank you.
Thank you, Don, and thank you for organizing this evening. This is so deeply important because there's not enough of this actually during these state campaigns where we get an opportunity to actually come before the different towns and let you know about us. I'm Senator Henry Ingerson. I currently represent this Senate District 32, Hollis, Arundel, Biddeford, Dayton, and Lyman. I'm running for re-election to my third term to represent you as your state senator, a seat I've held since 2022. I also served in the Maine House of Representatives from 2018 to 2020, representing Arundel, Dayton, and part of Lyman. I'm a career educator, having spent 25 years as a classroom teacher in private and public schools in southern Maine. Before that, I had an excavating business, so I've had a very checkered career. I currently live on an old dairy farm in Arundel with Christine, my wife, of 51 years, and my daughter, my son-in-law, 2 of my grandkids, a sister, a brother, my stepmom, and 3 nieces, all living on this old farm in different houses together. I have 3 daughters and 12 grandchildren, all living in southern Maine. Christine and I are currently beekeepers. In the Maine Senate, I've served on the Education Committee. I've been Senate Chair of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee, and am currently the Senate Chair of the Health and Human Services Committee and a continuing member of the Ag, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. I just want to open by talking about all this noise we hear out there about partisanship and rancor. Some of the best work we've done, and I've done, has been bipartisan work. The Bipartisan Health and Human Services Committee I currently chair has voted 80% of our bills out of the committee unanimously and bipartisan with the help of my leadership. This new building we sit in is a great example of bipartisan work. The availability of tax increment financing for the creation of this great new town hall was a result of a bill I signed and co-sponsored along with Nathan Carlo. Thank you, Rep. Carlo, for this. I told you about my life because my life as a devoted family man, a grandfather, a small business owner, a beekeeper, and a teacher, and a rural resident has shaped the issues I believe in and will always fight for as a legislator. Here are some of them. Under this last bipartisan, not bipartisan, under this last budget, we delivered $11.4 million in direct property tax relief through the property tax fairness credit by increasing the maximum benefit. We've expanded the tax benefits for disabled veterans. We continue to support the municipal revenue sharing program at 5%, which municipal officials and people in towns know is very important for the towns and municipalities. We've been doing it at 5% since 2018, which is an increase from 2% under the previous administration. We continue to fund 55% of the total cost of public education in the state, an increase from around 49% under the previous administration. This budget has provided direct relief payments of $300 to more than 514,000 Maine people, helping households cover everyday costs like groceries, heating, rent, and childcare. In fighting for the seniors, I supported in the budget funds for a local area agency on aging, including Meals on Wheels. It's such a deeply important program for our municipalities. I funded eviction prevention, housing creation, and Maine veterans' homes, and the Aging in Place programs across Maine. Fighting for health care, we voted to expand the community mental health centers throughout the state and expanding access to affordable prescription drugs at rural pharmacies across our state. Fighting for agriculture, conservation, and clean water, a law I sponsored and I'm particularly proud of, phases out the sale of products containing PFAS when alternatives are available. In 2026 alone, we banned the sale of the following items in PFAS: carpeting, furniture, cookware, cosmetics, and toys. I'm running for re-election because right now in Washington, we're watching decisions being made that ask working people to carry more of the load while giving more of those who already have the most. The federal budget gives tax breaks to the wealthy while taking health care, child care, and aid to farmers away from our working Mainers. In Maine, we're doing the opposite. This budget and everything I work for in Augusta is aimed at protecting everything we hold dear as Maine people and answers the concerns I've heard from my constituents. It lowers cost, invests in the things Mainers rely on like child care, housing, and health care, and it makes sure that our economy actually works for the people who keep it running. Our workforce needs us to invest in education, so we did. Our families and businesses wanted us to invest in childcare, so we did. Thank you very much. It's great to be here this evening.
And thank you, gentlemen. So this will conclude your part of the meeting, and we'd like you to stay around if you'd like and talk to the folks when we finished up, or you can talk outside if you'd like. We'd like you to stay inside and hear the rest of the debate. Thank you. Henry, you walked off with my papers.
I did?
You're going to get me in big trouble.
Steal everything?
Oh, yeah, there you are.
Okay. There should be one more. Got one more piece.
This one?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Sorry to mess up your evening.
No problem. So the next on our agenda is Mr. Buzzell here. Okay, Mr. Buzzell, he's running for road commissioner. Mr. Hanson is not here. He has submitted a statement that he'd like me to read. I can read it first, or you can go first, whichever you would like.
Whatever, I'll go first.
All right, step right up here, and you'll have 5 minutes, and I'll give you a 1 minute warning when it's.
Sorry, it won't be 5 minutes.
Okay, well, whatever time you need.
How you doing? I'm Peter Buzzell Jr., running for road commissioner. I've been living in Hollis for 26 years. Me and my wife been running our own business for 35 years. And I've done a lot of different things. We work together every day. We haven't killed each other yet, but we still do it. I don't really have much to say. I'm not a politician or nothing, so I'm just a regular guy, working guy, so about all I got, I guess. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I will read Rob Hansen's statement. He couldn't be here. He said, hello, good evening, folks. I'm Rob Hansen Jr., and I'm proudly serving as the town's road commissioner. If I am reelected, this will be my 10th term. Caring for Hollis roads is a family tradition. My grandfather started this role 90 years ago, and my father served more than 55 years. I'm honored to carry on the knowledge and skills needed to serve our community. When I first took office, I promised to keep our roads safe, use your tax dollars wisely, and be someone that you can rely on. I have delivered on those promises. This past term, we faced challenges with a new plow contractor, but made steady progress throughout the winter and the spring repairs and summer paving. I'm particularly proud of our 10-year resurfacing plan, focusing on preservation and long-term savings. Being accessible matters to me. When you call, text, or stop me, I listen and I respond. I will continue to prioritize my connection to the community. If I am reelected, every decision will be made with efficiency and your tax dollars in mind. This role is about hard work and doing what's right for the people of Hollis and not for politics. I ask for your support so that we may continue to improve our roads and make progress together. Sincerely, Rob Hansen. And thank you, he said, and best of luck to all candidates this evening. That's Mr. Hansen. Next up, we're going to have a young lady from Leamington who's running for the school board, Dara Crawford. She's going to join us virtually. She couldn't be here. She's got a cold and a temperature, but she wants to participate in this discussion. The other school board member that was going to be here to speak, I don't think is here, so we may just hear from Dara and then go right to the selectmen. So is she ready to go, do you know?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, so you'll have 5 minutes, and your time will start now, and I'll give you a 1-minute warning.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Don and Mike. Though I haven't officially met you, I'm grateful for this opportunity, and thanks everybody for being there. Yes, my name is Dara Crawford. I'm thrilled for the opportunity to continue my involvement in the MS86 community. Over the past 5 years, volunteering in the classroom, at book fairs, on field days and other school events, and currently with the PTO has been incredibly rewarding and has only strengthened my desire to contribute even more. I grew up nearby in Cornish and attended Shakopee Valley High School. Oh, after I graduated, I attended college in Oregon, lived in other states for a majority of my 20s and early 30s. I then moved to the Catskills in New York, where I got married and started a family. And once we were expecting a second child, we moved back to Maine, to Leamington, to build our home on land that we now share with my parents. So this fall will be 10 years we've been back in Maine. When we moved back to Maine, we began to build our small certified organic farm and business, where we now raise chickens, honeybees, annual and perennial vegetables, fruit, and seed crops. When the kids were little, I had this idea that we were going to farm and homeschool, and it was really lovely for a number of years until our very social little 5-year-old daughter wanted to try school out. So we enrolled her in Hollis at the Stillwater School for a couple of days, a couple half days, and it was really going well. And then COVID happened, and just everything stopped. That fall, we were so happy she was able to do kindergarten remotely at HB Emory, our school. And everybody just did such a fantastic job during that unprecedented time. We were constantly impressed and just grateful for how flexible, resilient, and supportive everyone was. Fast forward to now, I kept both kids home with me until they were in the first grade, and they both were really ready to get into school. So it happened very naturally. The school was so supportive of, how we chose to allow the kids to enter school at, kind of on our own time frame. And they're getting older now. So I've started to become more involved in the community, and I'm feeling a real sense of wanting to give back and to be of service. When I heard there was a seat opening up for the school board in Leamington, I couldn't think of a better way to show my appreciation for the community than to run for the seat. And though I don't have a background in economics or similar, I do bring many skills like amateur grant writing, and I feel coming into this position with fresh eyes and a fresh perspective and a very open mind is a great advantage. I would seek to be a bridger of gaps and a liaison between the school and the greater community, the schools. I feel the current trajectory of the school board seems to be a positive one, and I'm excited to collaborate together to continue in that direction. I am aware there will be disagreements, and this is normal and to be expected, and can present more opportunities for greater building and
1 minute,
and
Dara.
coherence.
You got 1 minute.
Thank you. Thanks so much. In summary, I believe I'll be a great addition to the school board due to my enthusiasm, positive support, great interest in our community, and a desire to support our schools. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you all.
Okay. Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
All right. So now we're going to start with candidates for select persons. If they would step up here to the tables, and we'll start the debate. If you have questions for the selectmen, we'd like you to submit them to us on paper so that I may read them to the selectmen and ask the questions that you'd like asked. So we'll take a couple of minutes to allow you to do that, so you can submit your questions if you want. You got it?
Yeah, we can grab yours. So nice. This is professional. Oh, thanks.
So while we're waiting for more questions to be submitted, I'd like to give the opportunity to each one of the candidates to introduce themselves and a little bit of their personal background before we start with the questions. So we'll start over here with this gentleman right here. If you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks. My name's Phil Finnemore. Lived in Hollis now for 9 years. I'm a physical therapist, a business owner. I've served on in multiple positions on board of directors in my time, and I'm at a point where I'm highly invested in this community with my kids being in the schools and utilizing the rec programs, and I want to get involved. I've been in public service from Cub Scouts up through Eagle Scout and those board of director positions pretty much my whole life. And I'm looking to serve this community. I want to bring my skill set as a business owner, physical therapist, and my board positions to provide some leadership, some critical thinking, and some collaborative decision making to the board so that we can grow this town in a prosperous way without losing what makes us the great small town that we all love.
Hey, thank you, sir. Dan?
Are we not clapping? I thought we were clapping. I'm sorry. Clap for everybody else.
Can't stop a clap. All right, Dan Urumian, thanks for everyone for coming out tonight. I know it's everyone's got busy lives, and it's great having so many people interested in small town politics here. I grew up in Buxton, Maine, just over the bridge in West Buxton Village. I attended Bonnie Eagle High School, class of 2004. Then I went to UMaine Orono. I'm currently a land surveyor at Maine Boundary Consultants in West Buxton. It's been my career with my father. I've been involved throughout the community. I've lived in Hollis for 10 years. We moved here when our kids got to be in school age. I have one daughter who's in high school and a son who's about to go into middle school next year. So it's definitely a busy time of the year. I was watching baseball on my phone. I've involved in the rec department. I help out, I'm not in the rec department, sorry, but I've been kind of helping out the rec department, anything they need. I'm in the sports complex committee, so I kind of been taking care of that. That's kind of my neighborhood. So I've been working with Chip over there and Debbie. Grew up playing Hollis soccer with Debbie. I've made some connections with a lot of people around town. I've been in the snowmobile club. I was president of that for 7 years before handing over to Greg a couple years ago. I work on a couple other committees outside of the town. I'm in the Maine Society of Land Surveyors. I did a one-year term last year with our new form of government because it was geared towards the everyday Joe. So I decided to put my name in the race, and I feel like I got a little unfinished business, and hopefully I get elected for the next 3 years.
Ms. Bradbury.
I'm Danielle Bradbury. I live in Hollis. I grew up in Buxton. My husband's Alex Bradbury, which I'm sure a lot of you probably know. We have a small farm at our house, cows, goats, chickens, all that fun stuff. When I was in Buxton, though, I went to Bonnie Eagle, graduated from there, and I went to college, so I became a nurse. And then when Alex and I got married, I decided that I was going to work at Mid-Cape Restoration with him, and so we worked together every day. And like one of the other candidates, we haven't killed each other yet, so for about a year and a half. I don't know, I just thought it might be fun to try and help Hollis more and be more involved. We have 2 small kids at home and another one on the way, but I just really wanted to try and help the town out. And I think that we're spending a lot of money, so I'd like to try and curb that if I can, but I don't really know what else to say. I have sourdough that I sell out of my farm stand that I think everybody sees on Facebook. That's pretty much me. I don't know. I wasn't expecting to give a speech, so thank you all for being here tonight, too.
So, Tom, you're up next.
Sir, my name's Tom Wachowski. I've lived in Hollis with my wife for probably just shy of 10 years. I've sat on your planning board for the past 6 years. On your planning board, we've created a lot of ordinance or helped change ordinance and adopt ordinance that better reflects what the voters and what the residents want. I own a small business, a couple small businesses. We do towing and car repair. We've been doing that for about 8 years now. I own a pizza shop as well, a pizza food truck as well. So we do pizza as well. I grew up in Falmouth, believe it or not. After I graduated, I joined the military, did that for a number of years, and then found myself in Leamington. Served on their planning board for probably just shy of 3 years before moving to Hollis. Again, started my business here and then joined their planning board shortly thereafter. Created your food sovereignty ordinance that the people ended up adopting. It's been a great way to actually bring small businesses to the front and allow them to operate without overzealous restrictions at a smaller capacity. So it's given just the people that I know personally, half a dozen people, the ability to earn extra income, start businesses that are able to help them out when times are kind of getting tough for everybody. Running for select board again. I'm hoping that we can try to curb some spending, cut back on stuff. I understand that the select board is only part of the issue. As far as spending, a lot of it goes to the voters, and the voters have to say yes. I think if we keep saying yes on everything, taxes are only going to go up. So hopefully we can try to limit that and keep taxes lower for people that are struggling right now.
Okay. Thank you,
So,
Tom.
Thank you.
So we're going to ask each candidate the same question, and I'm going to rotate the start around so that no one has to start first every time. So we'll see how that goes for a while. So the first question will be yours, Tom, and we'll pass the same question around to everybody. As a select person, how will you be physically responsible to the taxpayer?
Did you say fiscally or physically?
Fiscally responsible.
Fiscally responsible.
Fiscally responsible.
Again, touching kind of on the introduction, a lot of it is hoping that the taxpayers will agree with your approach to spending. A lot of it has to do with the finance committee and getting them to play ball as well. I've talked to a few people in, I don't want to say management roles, but enough people to understand that I don't think it would be a bad idea to kind of stop our budget spending for a while, put some sort of budget freeze in place. I know that's a much bigger conversation, and again, just bringing it up now, I understand it's not the, but I think it would be a good idea. I think a lot of people are cutting back, and I think that if your residents, your taxpayers are cutting back their spending, then it's the responsibility of the town to do the same thing. We've obviously got a big, huge, beautiful building, but the costs associated with this building are 44% above what they were for the old building. And if we can kind of cut back on some of that stuff, I know there's fat that can be trimmed there, I'm certain of it, then I think it's a good thing. And if the residents are tightening up purse strings, then it's the responsibility of the town to kind of follow suit.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I got it.
Okay,
I
thank you.
hate to piggyback on Tom, but that's kind of where I stand as well. I just think that we all live here, we all pay taxes here, but a large portion of it is due to the voters, and then a large part of it is also stuff that's out of our control, like school board. The school budget also drives up taxes. It's not just the town of Hollis's taxes, it's part of the school budget that we're responsible for some of those taxes. So it's kind of hand in hand. But there are things that we can, I think, get a hold on and hopefully maybe bring taxes down or keep them at the same level, hopefully, because I don't foresee them like dramatically dropping because of how everything else is and everything goes up. But my hope is to at least slow down how much they're going up. And if not, maybe we can, like you said, a freeze on the budget. Maybe there's a way we can kind of do something. I'm not really sure, but I just think that we need to at least slow down our spending and cut things where we can because everybody's struggling right now, so.
Thank you. Dan, you got the question? You all set?
Yeah, I got the question. I've been in the select board for 1 year, and before that, I was on the finance committee, so I've been involved in the town's finances for a while. And Right now, I don't think we have a big spending problem in town. Compared to a lot of the other towns around us, our property taxes are half that. I think we've done a great job keeping the prices low for people. I know that people say they're going up, but look at your tax bill the last 3 years. It hasn't gone up. It's going to be going up this year a little bit due to this town hall, due to a lot of insurance costs. Everyone knows insurance costs goes up. Well, we pay our employees' insurance, so those costs are going up, and hand in hand gets passed back to people. But yes, our costs have been going up, but also, you know, I've been walking by the town hall at the registration window, and there's always a line out to the door. So people are spending money. Money's coming into the town. It's definitely, we don't want to be spending money, increasing everything, buying a lot of new things. But so far, I think we've been doing pretty good compared to a lot of other places around us. Definitely, you know, our checks and balances, we go through and sign every check that goes out. So there's a lot of stuff that's been happening already to keep spending from going up, but I just don't feel like that has happened here in Hollis.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I think, you know, everybody wants to not have taxes go up, and it sounds good to say we're just going to keep the taxes low, but without a plan to do that, that is a bit of a pipe dream. The building is larger, but in talking with some people on the finance committee and being at some of the meetings going over the budget, I think you know, general expenses outside of contractual raises only went up about 5%, even with how much bigger this building is, give or take, maybe 6%. So I think Dan was accurate in saying that we're not spending like crazy, even with this much bigger building. I actually poured through some of the warrants over the last 3 years and voting on the budget item just to see if there was any potentially controllable expenses that stuck out. And one of the ones I identified saw an almost $200,000 increase in our waste disposal from our trash pickup. And actually called some folks at Eco Maine who run our trash and found out what that was from. And there's actually some changes in reflecting the costs, the true cost of recycling efforts because of a new program and new regulations at the state level that will provide reimbursements back based on our recycling costs and recycling efforts. So that's actually one example. We're doing a little bit of digging, making a couple of phone calls to find out why that line item went up almost $200,000 over a 3-year period. We can get involved in that program, which doesn't cost us anything to get involved in that program, and we can qualify for percentages back, which they haven't set yet. But yeah, that's one example. So just looking at things with the fine-tooth comb and making sure we're being responsible is an obvious thing. And there are some ways to do that while we can keep the town moving and working for the people.
Thank you. Okay, next question. We'll start off with you, young lady. Where do you see the town in 5 years as far as residential and business growth is concerned, and what is your plan to get us there?
Well, I don't want to see a Dollar General because there's like a million of those everywhere, and I don't want to see Hollis change all that much. I agree we have to grow. It's just how it is, and especially with the new legislation from the state, there is a lot that's going to be going on, as I know from the planning board, with zoning and all that kind of stuff in residences. But I don't think we should have a million different houses being built all in 1 year. I think that I believe we have a cap right now, and I would like to keep that. I don't want to see us become Gorham. I don't want to see us become even Buxton. I like the way it is here. I like that it's rural, and I like that we don't have a ton of, we don't have a police force. We don't have a public works department. I don't think we really need all that. I would like to pretty much, like I said, have it stay roughly the same. I know we have to grow. I think that people should be allowed to have small businesses out of their homes, or if they want to come to Hollis and start a business, I don't have a problem with that because businesses do bring in taxes. We have a small business, so obviously I'm not going to be against businesses. but I also don't want to see a strip mall, and I don't want to see like a McDonald's move in, and like I said, Dollar General. So I guess I don't really know what the plan would be, other than hopefully there's some ordinance changes we can do, or getting stuff on the ballot to pass, like I said, a housing cap, which I think we have, but like keeping it and that kind of thing.
Thank you. Dan?
5 years, is that what it was?
5 years, yes.
Right. So in the next 5 years, our TIF agreement with Poland Spring will be running out. I hope that there can be some sort of new TIF district created with hopefully that the TIF department, there's a committee right now studying that, and they're coming up with an exit strategy for that. And I'm hoping there can be some area in town picked for a new district. Perhaps use some of that funds to promote that. If there could be some sort of area designated in town for some sort of, small business development. I don't want any more big businesses or big box stores in Hollis, just like everyone else. I like a rural character that we have. I just drive through Hollis Center and think there could be more going on in there. We have a nice, there could be a little downtown area in town, some sort of, business village district. If some sort of zoning encouragement could be created for that area. We could also have, some sort of tightening up in our ordinances, just, kind of laying out kind of, we don't want, if a store comes to town, we don't want the Model A, we want the Model A+. We don't want the brick facade, we want the nice looking stuff. It doesn't have to be like a downtown Kennebunk, but there could be some ways to promote, just some more neighborhood-friendly businesses. We have a lot of one type of store in town. There could be some more other things. That's how I kind of like see it. I don't want to see, big subdivisions. I wasn't a big fan of the cluster subdivisions. I got that asset question last year, and I was only one of the candidates who didn't really feel like those felt home in town.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, so I think business development, but smart, controlled business development that serves the needs of Hollis residents is absolutely paramount to offset our tax base. When that TIF ends, that affects our tax base. Part of our property taxes we can't control from the school budget affects our tax base. We could use, I love what Dan said, I've been doing some digging on this as well. I really hope that the TIF committee is exploring some ways to maybe build some sort of infrastructure and invest in an area. We already have some economic overlay zones and zoning in the 202, 117, and parts of 35. So finding some areas that we can maybe use some of this money to invest in. We could use a TIF to create another TIF. Like, we know how great that has been for our town. And I think if we don't look at doing something like that, we are going to have a much bigger problem on our hands that we won't have as much control over. As far as residential growth, I know that there was some talk at one of the recent planning board meetings of an actual growth ordinance and defining some of that. And I think controlling the residential growth is incredibly smart because residential growth does not offset our costs in our tax base. Again, smart, calculated business growth does, residential growth doesn't. So I think we can find a good happy medium there and keep Hollis looking and feeling the way that we want it to and actually offset our tax base, which is going to be paramount moving forward.
Thank you. Tom?
Going last, I feel like I'm just piggybacking on everybody else's stuff. A lot of them got everything right. I feel like Danielle and myself are more of a leg up on this just because we sit on the planning board, and this is kind of more of a planning board question. If we try to limit growth, as we've tried to before, the state steps in and says you can't do that. They've just made it so that you can have, or they're working on making it so you can have 3 houses on one lot. That's not something that's traditionally looked favorably on in Hollis. We've always been more of a one house, one lot with a small ADU. The state's making a lot of decisions that are pushing the hand of the planning board as far as what's allowed and what's not. Butch Gannett has written a growth ordinance that we've had to table because we're not sure if the state's going to ban growth ordinances, which further restricts the town's ability to regulate growth, regulate what happens. As far as businesses go, we have an economic overlay zone that runs down our main corridors, or excuse me, trying to centralize businesses in those zones seems to be working well and working for residents. I haven't heard a lot of people pushing back against lining businesses on 117 and 202. I think it's a great area for it. As far as the TIF stuff goes, I think it was Mr. Yerumian last year, you said that you weren't concerned or as concerned about when the TIF expires, taxes shooting up, and I think you are right on point. I don't think there's going to be a huge tax increase when the TIF runs out, as the money will still be there. That was a year ago. It stuck out like yesterday, so well played. TIF agreement, again, we're going to, in the end of 5 years, we're going to have $5 million, $5.5 million, I believe it was Mr. Ponzetti said, sitting in an account that we need to do something with. If we don't do something with it, it goes back, it goes away to all the other towns around us that it, yes, technically came from. So the TIF committee is going to be huge in trying to figure out what's appropriate for that. That committee's been formed, it's obviously operating now, and then it'll go in front of the select board and then hopefully in front of the voters with the solution that they come up with. But at the end of the day, it all goes back to voters. So it's what the voters want, and I think that's the correct way to do it.
Thank you.
Sir?
Next question, you'll be first up, Dan. As a candidate, what are your priority areas for improving the Hollis community, and what ideas do you have to achieve those improvements? And do you see the use of tax dollars as supporting your effort?
Oh, great question. One of my areas, candidates night last year, what would you do if you won the mega bucks or something like that? And I said, give it to the kids for the rec department. One of the things I've been after the last couple months is writing a grant for bike trails at the sports complex. That is kind of one of my projects I've been working on. That is a 90% matching grant that we could receive, up to $250,000. It's a pretty good program. And I've been working with a professional mountain bike trail designer, a local guy in Rundle, I believe. Part of that matching grant can be donated time and materials. So I've been contacted with the New England Mountain Bike Association and talking to them about donating some time, helping that out, get it going so that could count as the grant, so we could have some nice trails out around the sports complex for basically $0 on us. It's all bonded trail grant money that the state already approved last year. That was a voter referendum. So that's one thing. Other improvements around town that I'm working on. I got to give it most credit to my opponent's husband, the community garden that we started that up this year. That's all run off of donations, people renting plots out there, people growing. Hopefully this year we'll be growing vegetables, feeding some people. Just kind of looking at little programs. I like helping out the rec department. I said as much as I can. I coach the little kids at soccer. Just little projects around town.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, could I have the question again? It was a great question. I want to make sure I hit all of it.
As a candidate, what are your priority areas for improving the Hollis community, and what ideas do you have to achieve those improvements, and do you see the use of taxpayer dollars to do it?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things I've talked about with a lot of people is just coming together for the sake of coming together, putting on community events that I don't think most of which would need to cost the town anything. I've heard from a lot of people. I mean, I've got children just like everyone up here in town utilizing the rec department. That's great, but not all of those activities are going to attract everyone in town, especially the people that don't have kids. So working with local businesses, local organizations to put events on that just get people together. People kind of roll up their sleeves, donating their time, their resources to get together and have someone come play music during the summer on a Friday night down here by the pond. Things like that. I think we could bring the community together in a lot of different ways without any tax dollars, and just getting information out to people, figuring out what people want to come together for. And as far as just development in general, our recreational areas are always great reasons to come together. And I know there's a lot of grants and stuff out there for that creative if we do need funding for something, but I'd love to focus on just some community efforts that don't require money and can just require some grassroots efforts of people who want to come together and be together and build community.
Thank you. Tom?
Thank you. We have a good number of land trusts, a lot of space that I don't think a lot of residents understand exists. I'm sure most of the residents in this room know that we have Guggen's Woods and the Indian Cellar. But I'm meeting more and more people that don't know that land is there, don't know that they can explore that land and enjoy that land. My mom takes my daughters down to the Indian Cellar more than I've been to the Indian Cellar. So there's fun stuff in Hollis that I think more people would like to. I try to get the word out so that they know that it does exist, and it's something that's accessible to all residents. As far as spending taxpayer money on stuff, it's anytime taxpayer money is being spent by the town, I like to make sure that the residents are voting that in. The residents are approving that spend. I don't like seeing taxpayer money spent on things that residents may be, even 50-50 on. Anytime it's something that taxpayers' money is being spent on, I'd like to make sure that it ends up in a vote at the very least. So,
Thank you. Ms. Bradbury?
A lot of things that people want to do don't really require you to be a selectman or even have funds. A lot of it's mostly volunteering your time. Like Dan said, my husband's doing the community garden. I didn't even know he was doing it. He just came home one day and he's like, oh, I rototilled the community garden. I'm like, I didn't know we even had one. So that's great because he's trying to bring it back with Dan, and it's been really nice. I've been up there a few times and it's beautiful. And I think it's a great thing for the town to have because some people live on smaller lots and maybe they don't, or maybe they just don't want to garden at their house. There could be animals and all that fun stuff because it is rural. So, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. As far as the taxpayer dollars, I agree. I would rather see things voted on if we're going to spend taxpayer money because not everybody's going to use these things that maybe we have ideas to do for the community. And I like the idea of grants. I think grants are a really good way to go because the money's just, it's there and it's not, it's our tax dollars through the federal or the state level, but it's not coming out directly from the town. So we're not spending more money on it. That's pretty much all I have.
Thank you. Hey, Phil, you'll start off on the next one. And the question is, do you feel hiring a town manager was a good allocation of taxpayer funds? And if you do, tell us what the benefits and the accomplishments that you see have happened.
It's a great question. There's a lot of talk about doing things that the voters want, and this form of government was voted on overwhelmingly by the voters. I think I know that in the committee where they're talking about elected to appointed positions, there's talk of recommending like a charter alongside that ordinance, which I think probably should have passed back when we voted on it alongside moving to this form of government, which I think would have greatly helped. But I think we are moving in the right direction. Having more voices, more checks and balances with the 5-person select board and having that town manager run our day-to-day operations so that the people on the select board don't have to run day-to-day operations is going to be a benefit. With that being said, I think we do need that elected to appointed ordinance that committee unanimously agreed we need to put up to a vote to the people, so that we can give this form of government all of the resources it needs to truly evaluate its effectiveness and its efficiency. I think it's too early to determine that, to be completely honest with you. And I do see some benefits of it already. I think they're figuring a lot of things out to make some of our older processes run much better. And we need that. We need to bring some of our processes up to the 21st century in a lot of ways. And I think this form of government does it. It's what the people wanted, and I think we need to give it the resources it needs to truly evaluate its effectiveness and its efficiency moving forward.
Thank you. Tom?
Very good. That's a good answer. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Thanks, Tom.
Phil's right on some points there. I think it is 100% too early to see if it's really working out. I know after I made sure that I gave the select board and the town manager their space to work out their hiccups. I am usually openly critical about how the select board operates, but I knew that learning a new form of town government wasn't going to be something that was done easy. There was bound to be hiccups, bound to be disagreements. Transfer of power, it's a huge thing. I think it's going to be a learning curve. I still think it is. I don't think it's going to be a very simple thing. Tax dollar wise, again, you hear me say it 1,000 times, the residents voted that they wanted this form of government. I supported this form of government. I want to make sure that the money we're spending on employing anyone is money that's well spent. And again, I see a huge benefit to having one point of contact for any resident, any company, anything that needs to talk to somebody at the town and can't find either a selectman or the girls in the office are outrageously busy all the time. So, and it shouldn't fall on whatever employees available to answer questions that come in from the general public and businesses alike. So I think it's a great idea to have a town manager. I also want to make sure that the dollars are being spent well and we're getting the most bang for a buck, which it seems to be moving in that direction.
Thank you. And really?
That was well said, too. Yeah, I supported the 5-person select board and the town manager, as did a lot of the voters, because it passed. For me, it was the 5-person select board I really wanted versus a 3. I just thought it would be better to have more residents and more opinions on the board to have a say for all of us. As for the town manager, I don't know a ton about him. He's a very nice man, and I think, again, if he's doing the job we've asked him to do, I think it's worth the money. And so people can contact him, if they can't find a select board member or even a planning board member, if they're looking for something for that. He's a great point of contact because he can point you in the right direction or even get you the answer that you need. That's all I got.
Dan.
So basically, repeat what everyone else said. It's definitely nice having someone, a professional in there to be in charge of the town. I couldn't be a select board member if there wasn't someone handling the day-to-days. I run a business. The new change in government created this opportunity for 4 people up here without, no offense, Mary, gray hair, to be able to serve for the town at a position like this. He's there every day. He makes the calls. He takes care of the business. It just kind of is the way that towns morph into what they are. We were at this 3-member select board for a long, long, long time, and it was a step forward. I think there's another step or 2 that could keep happening to kind of smooth things out in town a little bit more. So I think it was beneficial moving to a town manager.
Thank you, sir. We're going to start with you again, Tom. I've got two questions here that related to the same thing, so I'm going to lump the two of them together, so it'll be a two-part question. The first part is, do you think that the town should use TIF funds on public works? The second part of the question is, what is your opinion of the Public Works Department?
Fantastic. Pretty straightforward. I am personally in favor of a public works department as long as we can prove that it's going to save the taxpayers money, or a very, very minimal change in what it costs the taxpayers. At the end of the day, you're going to hear me say it 1,000 times. Everybody's squeezed for money. Everybody's trying to spend less money. Everybody's dialing back. If the town's choosing that time in the economy to expand stuff and charge taxpayers more, cost taxpayers more, I don't think it's the right move. If the TIF can pay for it, which I assume it can, again, it really just goes back to, is it the right thing for the taxpayers? Is it going to save taxpayers money or cost them very little more than what we're getting now? I think I own a tow company. I drive through pretty much every snowstorm and pull cars out of ditches. Hollis started off the year kind of rough, but by the end of the year, it was a lot better. I wasn't pulling nearly as many cars out of ditches in Hollis as I was all the surrounding towns. So Public Works is, again, I want to make sure that it ends up in the hands of the voters, and the voters have every bit of knowledge they can to know what they're voting on as far as cost increases. Public Works sounds great. Again, the TIF money has to be spent, but I want to make sure that the voters understand what they're spending money on and they're allowed to make the choice that is right for them as far as spending.
Okay. Thank you, Danielle.
I don't support a public works department because my worry with that is that it puts us into the slippery slope of becoming Gorham and Buxton, because they both have public works departments. And even if it can be paid for by the TIF, my concern is when the TIF money runs out, I don't know, I assume it would be a bigger department, but maybe it's going to be the same size. Then you're still looking at paying for the maintenance on the building, the electric, all the utilities and everything. And if it was to save us money in the long run, that's a different story, but I just can't foresee it saving us any money compared to what we have now. Like I said, even if the TIF pays for it, we're still looking at when the TIF money's gone, we're footing the bill. And I just don't want to get into the slope of becoming public works department like everybody else, and then getting a police force, and it's a domino effect. It goes on from there, and then you're looking at Hollis not really being rural to me, because if there's a public works department, I don't see it as rural as it is now.
Thank you. Dan?
I think we should let the committee play out and see what they kind of recommend. I'm not against the Public Works Department, but I'm also with Tom that it needs to, we need to run the numbers. Without knowing that, how are we supposed to know what's better for the town? Some Public Works Departments, I think, spend money a little bit more liberally than others. I went to the Buxton Public Works Garage yesterday, or Monday, and the place is massive. They got all this equipment. I can't believe how many pieces of tools and alignment machines or lifts and all this. It's a compared to the town of Leamington, they buy used trucks and they take fire trucks and turn them into plow trucks, and I think that they have a very creative person running that, and I've heard great things about the plowing roads in Limerick. It kind of gives, accountability to the person who is doing it. This year was definitely a bumpy start with this new contractor, and part of that is, they're a contractor and we're just paying them. There's not much leverage on the town if they're not employees, if they're not doing their job.
Bill?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think our TIF exploration should really look into ways that are going to offset our tax base. And certainly if Public Works, the numbers work out, I'm not completely against it or completely for it. I think any decision like this needs to be weighed on do we actually have the money to do an entire startup for a department like that? And will the maintenance of it cost the same, more or less than what we're already paying in that line item on the budget now? If the answer is more, I'd be a no. If it's the same or less, and that's how the committee thinks it's best and it goes to the voters and they vote on it, great. But ultimately, I really think our TIF committee should explore all options with a very open mind and not go into it with one thing in mind, and with the real lens of how can we offset our tax base with this incredible opportunity of these funds that we have sitting in front of us.
Thank you. So you'll be up next on this first one. Okay, the next question. How long have you lived in Hollis? And prior to running for election of this office, what have you done with our town government? And what, if anything, were you involved with the rec department?
I've lived in Hollis for 7 years now, and before that I was in Buxton, so I've been local. I don't plan on leaving. My husband's family's been here since, I'm pretty sure, before it was even Maine, and we live in the house they built in 1819, so we're not going anywhere. I've been on the planning board for a year and a half. We've been rewriting some ordinances, and they're going to be going onto the ballot this year for June. So we've really been working hard on that. I have not had any involvement with the rec department, though.
Okay. Thank you. Dan?
Can you just repeat the questions? so I
Okay, the
don't
question,
forget?
how long have you lived in Hollis?
10 years.
And prior to running for this election, what did you do for town government? And did you have any connection with the rec department?
Okay. So I got elected to the budget committee back when it was a budget committee. That was, I think, 8 years ago. After I lived in Hollis for a couple of years, I got on that. It switched over to finance committee. I got appointed to that. I have a son who's in rec. He doesn't do aftercare, but he does summer and a couple of programs. I have a daughter who's a counselor at summer rec part-time, and I coach soccer for 5th graders, and I'll help Chip measure out the track for rec. There's a big pothole at the entrance. I said, Chip, get some gravel. Robbie dropped off some gravel, and I went over there in my tractor and smoothed it out last week. So I like to donate my time to rec.
Thank you for your service. Bill?
Yes, I've lived in Hollis for 9 years now, 9 years as of May 5th, actually. And have, up to this point, have not been on a specific town committee, but as I said, I've been a part of civic organizations and philanthropic organizations literally since I was 5 years old and could be a Cub Scout. So did projects around my town through Boy Scouts and Eagle Scout project in the small town in Maine that's very, very much like Hollis, where I grew up, lived in Maine my whole life. And yeah, I'm passionate about serving. I'm really invested in this community, having been here for the 9 years now. And I've got some time, some experience, and I want to make sure we take advantage of the opportunities and some of the hurdles we need to navigate in front of us. And this is how I'm really wanting to get involved.
Thank you. Tom?
Lived in Hollis 9 years now. We bought a property there 10 years ago. Repaired it for a year so that it was move-inable, or livable, habitable. It was an old Salmon Falls school before that, and converting a school to a living space it has quite the amount of hurdles. After I started my business 8 years ago, after starting my business, I knew that I wanted to serve on the planning board to try to speed along or expedite the process that it takes for smaller businesses to start in the town. Make sure that all the steps were followed and done correctly. It took around 5 months for me to start my business in the town of Hollis. That was 5 months of expenses that were mortgage payments, etc. And I think a lot of the people that I've met on the planning boards joined the planning board because there was something that came up that either didn't sit well with them or thought that could have been done better. Since then, we've kind of streamlined the process while making sure that all the important steps are still there, making sure that we're having public hearings, getting public input. And it's everything flows a lot better than it does. We've proposed ordinance changes, again, like Danielle said, this June, that are great ordinances changes that really reflect what I think planning board thinks residents want in the town of Hollis. It makes it a little bit easier for small businesses to operate, a little less costly. Right now, if you own a business in a 2-acre zone and you want to do, we'll use mine for an example, car repair and car sales, you would need to have 4 acres and 400 feet of road frontage on 117, which is extremely cost prohibitive for any small business that's just starting up. So some of those things we're looking to change are in the proposed ordinance. It's a great thing. I created the food sovereignty ordinance a couple years back. Southern Maine Planning gave the planning board a proposed set of ordinance changes. The planning board at the time looked over them and said, hey, some of these don't really fit with Hollis's vision, with what we think residents want in Hollis. So we pulled those out. One of those things was requiring small farms, people that, generational farmers, stuff like that, to come in front of the planning board and ask for permission to continue doing what they were doing, decades before any planning board member even existed. So seeing that and seeing what could happen, knowing that that was pulled from towns around us, I thought it was important to put the food sovereignty ordinance together. And again, the residents agreed wholeheartedly with, again, a lot of other Maine residents all over the state of Maine. So it was a very good thing. Yeah, I think that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next, Dan, will you be first on this question? Moving forward, what should our fire department's growth look like as a small rural town? And do you think we are required to match the larger departments around us?
Yeah, I think we're at a pretty good point right now. I don't see need for much expansion unless a lot of more people start moving into town for some reason. I haven't seen, that much growth around. It seemed like it was a lot of stuff happening right after COVID, and it's kind of mellowed out. I haven't seen when's the last subdivision you guys worked on, right? Don't even remember. So it's, lost my train of thought now. The fire department, yeah. Chris comes to us when he needs something. It's kind of that relationship. It's not we're telling them what needs to happen. It's Chris saying, okay, well, we've had so many calls. Okay, I got to get an administrative assistant or this, that. We just bought this new forestry truck, but we also sold an old fire truck and took one out of service. We bought a new chief's truck, but now we're not paying the chief mileage to put on his own personal vehicle. The last growth happened, and that was a result of the voters. We voted on 24-hour coverage at the station, and that wasn't a select board decision. That was a decision of the town, and I think that's how any further expansion should happen, is voted on by the town. It happens through the budget every year, but big tickets like that, adding 24 coverage was a standalone question. I think that's how it should happen in the future.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, this, like many other questions like it, is an issue that needs to be examined from how does this serve the people of the town? Is what they're asking for going to serve the purpose that department serves for the people of the town? So I know that's a very broad strokes answer, but I think that's the lens at which we have to look at that. If they're being resourceful with their spending on the big ticket items, doing the things that Dan mentioned, making sure bigger decisions are not just like shoved in a budget and we're just like voting on a random budget. I think that's really, really important. And I think each of those decisions should be evaluated by the select board and the people of the town of hey, if we don't have people manning the station and there's an emergency, and people, the department is significantly short-staffed, that's a problem, right? So we need to be able to evaluate each of these things individually and look at what the cost is compared to what it gives to the people that the fire department serves. So I don't think that you can give a absolute yes or an absolute no on a discussion like this. I think it needs to be a case-by-case basis, and we have to make really smart, fiscally responsible decisions that are in the best interest of everyone in the town and their safety.
Thank you. Tom?
Sir. Mine's, I want to say, a little different than the rest. I think what I touched on earlier was putting a freeze on spending or proposing a freeze on spending. I think that the fire department, if approved this June, their budget is a pretty sizable bump, a pretty decent bump that should keep them competitive for a bit. I know that I think it's 80% of their calls are ambulance calls, and then about 20 are fire truck stuff. I think we have, from, again, listening to Chief Young speak, both at select board meetings and talking to him after meetings about taxpayer spending, which make sure I stay on top of. I feel like they're at a much better place, assuming everybody passes the June budget, much better place than they were before. I think that the fire department spending could be held in place for a year. I think cost of living, stuff like that, should still be factored in. So otherwise, if you freeze spending and then don't adjust for cost of living, you're chasing cost of living 2 years after that and spending more money. So I think it could be definitely a conversation that needs to be had about freezing spending, and I think it's a conversation that should happen, and I think the fire department, fire chief would be open to it. Again, with all necessary legal cost of living stuff still being in there, and yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Danielle?
Can you read the question again?
Sure.
I just want to make sure I'm responding correctly.
Question is, moving forward, what should the fire department growth look like as a small rural town, and should we have to match those of larger departments?
I don't think we should have to match larger departments. I think we should kind of base it on how many residents are in the town and how many buildings we have, and I'm sure that there's something that the chief does to figure that out, because like I said, we have new state legislature coming that's kind of tying our hands about how many houses we can have and how many, I mean, if you've got 3-4 houses on one lot and comparing to another lot with one house, like obviously we're gonna have to do some configuration on how many fire trucks we're gonna need, how much staff we're gonna need. Hopefully it doesn't go up a lot, because I don't think we need to be paying like what Scarborough does or something like that. I think that a lot of the pull to work for Hollis is you're a Hollis resident or a nearby resident, and you want to work for a small town. You want to help the small town. I agree with like a budget freeze if it's something we can do. I don't know what the budget is right now, and I like that we can sell some of the old equipment too when we buy new stuff, like, because we do need new stuff. You don't want to just be running something that's really old, that's breaking often, because then the maintenance is costing us more than buying something newer. But again, we'd have to just look at what's more expensive. Is it more expensive to buy new, or is it more expensive to keep fixing the old?
Okay, thank you. Bill, be the first on this question. I'm not sure what this means, but I'm going to ask it the way it's written. Would you support a tax club or a tax stabilization program for Hollis residents to help them with their taxes?
Yeah, so I think looking into tax stabilization ideas, and I actually did a little research on this to see what towns around Cumberland and York County do, and stuff like that. I guess I'm not exactly sure what the exact definition of a tax club is, but I did see some local towns that do offer people spreading their tax payments out in equal increments over the course of multiple months' time rather than two bigger chunks. I think that actually would help with cash flow for the town, and would certainly help prevent people from having to come up with, half of their taxes twice a year. So I think something like that definitely wouldn't hurt the town in any way. Tax stabilization to me kind of sounds similar to like a tax deferment, and I know the state has kind of a tax deferment program that's based on age and income level and whatnot. And in doing some research on that, there are a lot of towns here in southern Maine that do programs like that, and they base it off of, most of them base it off of the state program with just slightly different qualifications for that program. Maybe a different starting age, different income levels, how long you've been in the town. You got to make sure that you're up on your taxes in order to do something like that. So definitely something I think that could have a discussion on, because I know one of the biggest concerns I hear as I talk to people around town is, I do not want to get taxed out of my home. And I think the people that would meet the age and income levels of programs like that, that might be a way to offer that to those people. So it's in my opinion, it is definitely worth a discussion, worth investigating if we can make it work in our town.
Thank you. Tom?
There's, I believe it's, again, Falmouth, that has some sort of aging in place for older residents that can't absorb the impacts of excessive spending in school departments, basically. Falmouth, if anybody's aware, is a extremely high tax town. But they look to help citizens who have lived there for a certain amount of years, who are over a certain age, make under a certain income, and give them a reduction in their property taxes accordingly. Like Phil said, paying taxes twice a year. I pay taxes twice, my property taxes twice a year, sometimes late. But it's a burden. It absolutely is. And they're remarkably lower in Hollis than all the towns around. I own property in Leamington. It's 1 acre of land with 2 old trailers that I'm paying more in property tax for than I am in Hollis. People go, oh, that's fantastic. That's great. It's concerning that we're not even close tax-wise to, for my property in Hollis versus my property in Leamington. It makes me a little nervous that we need to make sure that we're getting our reevals done and everything's getting appraised properly, or assessed properly, excuse me. But yeah, no, as far as keeping people that have lived in Hollis, and we talked about it last time, Dan, you'll remember, when we did this same night last year, it was keeping people that have lived in Hollis in the homes that they've lived in for the past 30 years, not taxing them out of their homes. If there's a program that we can set up, something like Falmouth, and I know there's a bunch of other towns that do it, that will offset for people on fixed incomes, senior citizens on either disability or Social Security that hasn't adjusted for inflation as it should have. It's absolutely a good thing. There's no reason that people should be taxed out of their homes that they've lived in for a long time because the school wants to keep spending 70% of our stuff, and I hate to go back to it, but 70% of your property taxes are going to the school. And I find it tricky to make people sell their houses because they can't afford the spending for this school.
Yeah, Danielle?
I've never heard of these programs, but I think if there is a way that we can help out, especially the older generation, fixed income, to not lose their houses or have to sell and move somewhere else because they can't afford the taxes, I'm all for it. My grandparents have lived in Buxton forever, and I think they've done some kind of thing through the state. It's not the homestead exemption. There's something else that they applied for that helped a little bit to help the taxes not skyrocket. I don't know if we have that. I'm assuming we do since it was through the state. But I have no problem looking into other ways to try and offset some of the taxes for people who really can't afford it, because I don't think it's right to have people who've lived here forever get kicked out of their homes because they can't afford the property taxes, especially if your home's already paid off too. I mean, it's brutal.
Thank you. Dan?
Again, this is kind of my first time. I didn't do any research on this either. If I'm assuming a tax club means, you make monthly payments to the town. I wouldn't be opposed to that. The only thing I have is if it would add a lot of more burden to our tax collectors who already have a very busy job. I don't know if you've been trying to register a car lately, but it's like one after the other for them that I don't see them ever getting a break lately. Just to kind of spread out the payments, it is a bear. I still pay a mortgage, so I kind of have it escrowed, so I don't have to have a big payment to come out at the end. The thing about helping out senior citizens, I'm all for that. If there is some sort of program that the town could sign up for, again, if it was on our own, it's being a lot, someone's got to run that. And if we have people, we don't, I've come through town hall, I've never seen anyone sitting around twiddling their thumbs. Everyone here is working very hard every day from the time they get in until the time they leave. If we had to hire someone else to do that, you're adding on costs to everyone else. I'm not opposed to anything like that, but like I said, I need to know some more details on it before making a decision.
Thank you. So that's all the written questions that I have from the folks here in the room. We did have some online questions. One question was it had 3 sections to it. I took one of those out of that and gave everyone the opportunity to ask one question. And then I have a question that was emailed to me that I've left until last, and this will be the last question. And when we finish this part of it, there were 2 folks that have shown up here in the room that are running for school board that they weren't here when we were doing that, so I'd like to give them the opportunity to come up to the podium and have their 5 minutes if you don't object to that. But we'll finish with this last question first. The question that was submitted to me says, the MSA D6 school board has submitted a bond request for $8 million plus for essential school infrastructure repairs such as boilers and related systems and upgrades to heating systems and controls, as well as upgrades to our athletic field facilities in a turf field and the replacement of our declining running track. What are your thoughts? And you're up first, Tom.
I went to the school budget meeting last night where everybody voted. I was under the impression that we're voting on a bond item. I've since realized that that's not how it works. I sat through the select board meeting where Mr. Gleason, again, great educator, been in the district for a long time, been in schools for a long time, where he gave a 10, 15-minute speech about how this bond is a very important issue. This bond has to pass. We need to make sure the kids can have healthy school conditions, that it will upgrade all this stuff and do great things. And I'll be 1,000% honest with you, he had me sold. There's no reason that kids should be wearing jackets in school in the middle of winter because we don't fix the stuff. The part that lost me was when they also threw in the $3.7 million for a new AstroTurf field. I thought it was rather disingenuous, I guess was a word that I heard a much more intelligent man than me use. And it really is spot on. We don't like it when the federal government does it. We don't like it when the state does it. And now our own school board is throwing stuff that doesn't seem to be necessary for the learning of the kids in with stuff that very much is a necessity. The school board, I believe it was Mr. Gleason talked about it last night, that the school board had the discussion that maybe they should separate the two things. So it was at least aware to them that there may be a conflict of interest there, or maybe people that are going to say no because those two things are together. But they went forward with it anyway. Personally, I will absolutely be voting no. I don't think that those two things should have been together. I think they should have been separate. this is a real throwback now. I remember in high school, the athletics teacher saying, just like in the dictionary, academics comes before athletics. And I still think that stands true today. I think if they're going to tout a bond item as we have to pass this, the kids, being warm, updated boilers, this is very important infrastructure. But then throwing in something like AstroTurf fields for just shy of half the budget seems a little not okay.
And you?
I also went to the meeting last night, and I was also under the impression that we were voting on the bond, which we didn't. We voted on other budget items, which all passed. I don't support the budget because I also think that it is very ridiculous, honestly, that they're lumping in a new track and field along with ventilation systems. Apparently, one of the schools has dangerous levels of CO2, and we're still sending our kids there, yet we're going to go and throw this track in with it that's almost $3.8 million, which I graduated a little over 10 years ago now. The track probably doesn't look as good as it did when I was there, but I've also played on turf fields. I don't think we need turf fields at Bonnie Eagle. We're a more rural school. I understand we're one of the larger schools in the state, but just because we're larger doesn't mean we need to go and throw money at something that's non-essential. We can still mow the grass. We can fix the track enough. I'm fine with putting money towards fixing the track, but I think adding a turf field along with these a million other you go through the list and they're all the first few things, or the first majority of things on the list of that bond are heating, ventilation systems, stuff that's actually needing to be done, boilers that we need to replace, or maintenance on these things. And I'm fine with that because they're all safety items. And like Tom said, our kids shouldn't have to be wearing jackets to school. My son's going to be hopefully going to the Hollis pre-K this coming fall. And I've heard the Hollis gym's roof is leaking. I'm sorry, but that's more important than a track. And I think my issue with it all is that they've thrown in the track hoping that it will pass because people will see that everything else that needs to be fixed is also in that bond. And I just think that's very ridiculous to do to the voters because you're making a decision between having kids be safe in school or how much do you really not like that track. And I personally am going to vote no because I just think it's unacceptable. It should have been two separate items. And if the voters voted for a track along with the repairs, that's fine if that's what the voters want. But I don't think it's right to have everything together.
Thank you. Dan?
We had a select board meeting where, Don, you were there, and Mr. Gleason was there, and he presented the budget. And that was my question too, how much, they presented the whole thing, and this is the total amount of the bond. My question was, how much does the track cost? And, I was kind of blown away hearing over $3 million for that. I'm kind of torn because I got one kid who's a jock and one who's a bookworm. The analogy made was, yes, we need a new roof on the school in Buxton. We need a new boiler here. We need a new HVAC control here. We need this control here. And the analogy I think, Dawn, you made was, you have a leak in your roof, you fix it. Well, yeah, you have a leak in your roof, you fix it, but you don't also put in a swimming pool at the same time. So I'm with two opponents on the left where I wish it was separated out. It's not fair putting essential upgrades with, the way I see it, a gift for the select kids who make it on the sports teams who get to play there. Everyone gets to enjoy a non-leaking roof, and everyone gets to enjoy a heating system that works, but not every kid in school gets to enjoy playing on that track.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I'm an eternal optimist, so I don't always think someone's trying to pull the wool over my eyes, and I think I felt a little differently than some people because I was at the select board meeting when Dan asked that question, and that information did get out, and they did provide a lot of information last night. With that being said, the extension of that, and at the meeting, actually, Don presented this, the district has a history of voting down really necessary repairs, because often they will do it in a way where a school in one town gets it and all the other towns vote it down, right? Like that's been a long-standing history in the school budget. So I understand why they did it, lumping all of the school repairs together. But I do think the track, and again, I know that Don mentioned this in the select board meeting here in Hollis, was to get just more people out to vote for these necessary repairs, and I don't think it came from an entirely disingenuous position, but it is frustrating because I do believe we need these repairs, but I think the necessity of the repairs to the roofs, HVAC, all that good stuff, comparing that to the necessity of the sports complex stuff or the field and the track is a very tough pill to swallow. With all that being said, it makes it that much more important for those of us running for select board here, because we can't control those decisions that are made by the school board. It's paramount that we do what we need to do here to offset our tax base. We need to control what we can control. To me, that's the big take-home point here, because we as members of the select board I personally won't lump things together just to try to get people to vote a certain way. And in doing so, we need to make sure that we're controlling what we can control, and we have to have the right decision makers in place to do that.
Thank you. So those are all the questions for this group. So if you will stand by for a second, I'd like to ask Mr. Allen and Ms. Meserve if they'd like their 5 minutes to talk about their election to the school board. You can have 5 minutes, and I'll give you a 1 minute warning, and you can say whatever you'd like. And so if you want to start first, Cynthia, you can come up.
Thank you, Don.
I originally voted for the budget. And once I listened to other people and realized the bond was lumped into those, I tried to rescind my vote. However, it was too late to pull it back, all the ballots. So I apologize, and I think you're all spot on. We don't need it. I think academics come first. I think we need to really get back to the community and where we started when I was in school. I graduated from Bonnie Eagle in 1981. I loved that school. I grew through that school, and I hear all of the time people saying, well, I went to Bonnie Eagle. I can't answer that. You know, they just say the academics in a negative way. We need to change that. And to do that, I think the community needs to help. I think we need to get back to the ball fields. We need to do picnics. We need to do different things for everybody to get together so parents can understand and kids get to know each other before they get into school, so that we can have them in not a controlled, but in a fun way, like a field day or whatever. So I think academics certainly come first. And the truancy, sorry, my mouth is all dry. I'm on the truancy committee, and we have improved significantly with truancy. The grades are going up. I think we need to just pull together as a community and not isolate towns, you know, Buxton, Hollis, Leamington, Standish. And just so you all know, I live in Buxton. I grew up there. I graduated in 1981. I built my house and paid for it when I was 20. I have a single-family home. I pay $466 a month in taxes. Single-family home. So as far as this bond goes, it doesn't in my book. If anybody's been down Henry Hill Road recently, they put in a substation. We can't even live in that road. We're about to do a class action lawsuit. So Buxton has outgrown its time, in my opinion, financially. We cannot support our schools and have a budget that only benefits the athletes. I think I am working with the department to update the website for events. Oh my goodness, can I have this done? I shouldn't have had an Italian with onions. Oh, there we go. Ooh. So I really think we need to, as a culture, get out of our houses. Get off our phones, get out of our houses, somehow come together. Whether it's a field day, at the school, meet each other before you get there. And parents need to teach their kids how to respond to others. You're not in a phone, and I'm glad they're banning phones in the school system. I know parents are really, really upset about that. When I grew up, there were no cell phones. Absolutely no cell phones. And I did just fine. I think parents need to teach their kids to be aware of their surroundings. A phone doesn't do that. So I would like to see. 1 minute. Oh, jeez. Got you there. So I hope you vote for me because I am passionate about this district. I love this district. And I know a lot of people in this district, and I would be proud to serve again. Thank you.
So that's Cindy Meserve from Buxton, and she's running for the Buxton seat as an at-large candidate. And our next person is Howard Allen. Howard Allen is from Leamington, and he's running for the Leamington seat at large. And you have 5 minutes, and I'll give you a 1-minute warning. Time starts now.
Okay. Again, my name is Howard Allen. I've been a Leamington resident for 35 years. My wife and I actually lived in Hollis in our first year of marriage in a little 12 by 45 trailer down in the trailer park there. So there's a little bit of tie-in there. I was at the budget meeting last night, and I will say unequivocally the bond should be defeated. I do not support it at all, and I'm telling everybody in the town of Leamington, don't vote for it. I think it's unconscionable that we have Georgie Jack with carbon dioxide levels of 1,067 parts per million. Actually, it's 1,607 parts per million against a standard of 1,000 at the max. And they're not doing anything about it. And I asked about that last night, and they said, well, we're hoping to pass the bond. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That's an emergency condition that the school system, the district has $2.2 million at least in the capital account, and that's as of 2023. The website doesn't show the current state of the capital account. That money is supposed to go towards maintenance, repairs, and it's not being used for those things. The other question I ask myself is how on earth did we get to a situation where we haven't replaced 50-year-old boilers previously? You don't wait until they're leaking and are inoperative. You replace them after 25, 30 years. And that is typically what a boiler is going to last, 25 or 30 years. So I'm sorry, to my way of thinking, the management of this district is lacking. There's not enough supervision by the board over what's happening. So I'm sorry, I'm just a little riled up about this. But this Georgie Jack thing, in my opinion, is just unconscionable. Now, putting the two things together in one bond, most of the people that spoke at that budget meeting felt that it was, to use their words, a deceitful action on the part of the board. I'm kind of a, what was the word, optimist? So I don't like to read things into people's actions without actually, being there and seeing and listening to the discussion. I know that one of the people on the board voted against the bond, and he's sitting right here, and I very much appreciate the fact that he voted against it. Now, the rest of the budget, I think the budget is way too much. The fact that they take $4 million or $4.13 million from leftover, that tells me that they charge us taxpayers $4.13 million more than they should have, more than they needed to. And they're going to do the same thing this year, and the budget is increased. I personally asked that they reduce some of the budget at the meeting last night, and of course it was defeated. So I'm standing before you. I want to see more accountability. I'm also upset because if you look at the education outcomes of our schools, understanding that COVID certainly played a part in reducing our effectiveness, thank you, in the education process. But we owe our current students some extra help to get them to recover from that, so when they graduate and go to trade school or college or whatever they're going to do in their life, they will be better prepared. I asked the question, I said, we're going to give you all this money last night. I said, we're going to give you all this money. How are you going to make the outcome of our kids come back to where it used to be 3 or 4 years ago, especially in science and math? I'm an engineer. Those two things to me are very important. So that's where I'm at. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, thank you for coming. That concludes our business. Hope you'll stay around and talk to some of the folks that are running for state office and some of the local offices. Thank you very much.